A wonderful morning to everyone who has joined today. From Manage Engine family, we would like to extend our warm welcome and sincere thanks to all our customers, partners, and users who are interested in our solutions. Unified endpoint management and security is one of the main focus areas of Manage Engine. Let me introduce myself. My name is Surya, and I'm a product specialist with Manage Engine. I take care of endpoint management products, including Desktop Central, and I'm a seasoned technical support engineer assisting customers in their implementation, consultation, and troubleshooting in case of any challenges. And followed by me, my colleague Ruben will be helping us in explaining about application management on modern devices. So once again, welcome to Desktop Central's Unified Endpoint Management and Security Training. And we are in the week 3, which is about application deployment, removal, app control, and data security for legacy and modern endpoints. We've already had 2 trainings. If you're interested in them, you can view the videos of them, or you can register for the upcoming videos of the trainings as well. We have the link below for that same. And please note that your participation certificate includes series 1, 2, and 3, and you can visit the website below to get more information about that. So again, this week is about application deployment in both legacy and modern devices. We'll talk about application removal, application control, and data security for both legacy and modern endpoints. Okay. We'll quickly look at the agenda for today's training. So we'll give you a little overview about what Desktop Central is all about, what Unified Endpoint is all about, and we'll talk about application management within Desktop Central on how to deploy and upgrade a business application using the templates we have within Desktop Central. We'll also talk about deploying commercial applications which are not available in the templates, but how to create a package and deploy them. We'll talk about self-service portal for non-admins, so users who don't have admin rights. We will see how to get software deployed or how to make them deploy their own software. We'll also see how to secure data and services on modern endpoints. And we'll also have a live Q&A session by the end of this webinar. So this is a look, this is a traditional distributed workforce. So when we say distributed workforce, we have, for an example, John here managing endpoints from different locations. He has 500 endpoints from Sydney. He has endpoints from Chennai, London, and Bogota. So he has to manage all of them from one single console. That's something he is doing in an on-prem scenario. So with Desktop Central, we can achieve this. And similarly, he might have a scenario where he has to do all these things, but they all are hosted in a cloud environment. So you might need a cloud solution to manage them all. So we are handling both those on-prem and cloud scenarios for a distributed workforce. So what is Desktop Central? Okay, so to understand that, we need to know what UEM is all about. So we have Forrester, which defines unified endpoint management as products that provide a centralized policy engine for managing and securing employees' laptops and mobile devices from a single console. Okay. So what is UEM edition offered in Desktop Central is all about? It is a combination of client management with MDM. We have modern management for Windows 10 and Mac OS devices. Along with that, you have OS deployment as well. All of them combined is the UEM edition. So you can perform both the traditional management as well as the modern management aspects of management things. So you have your patch management, application management. The same will be done in a modern management side called like OS updates, like a controlled OS update or application management from Windows stores or Mac stores and things like that. So what we are looking at here is the different features offered in the unified endpoint management. So you have device provisioning, you have application management, as we talked about. We have web protection. There are all sorts of security and management features built in within one tool. You can go to our website to learn more about all these features offered. And over the course of years, Desktop Central has received multiple awards from Gartner as well as IDC, and more information about them will be available in the below link as well. So we've been talking about unified endpoint management. So what the endpoint means, when we say endpoint, we mean it could be a laptop, it could be desktops, mobiles, tablets, even point of sale devices, browsers, and servers. Okay, so all these devices, we consider them as endpoints, and we can manage them all under one single console. So these are all the supported operating systems. So we support Windows, Mac, and Linux when it comes to those legacy devices. And if we talk about modern devices, we support mobile phones and tablets. So iOS devices, Android, your Windows laptops, tablets, and even Chromebooks are supported here under the modern devices. And what you're looking at is the different flavors of operating systems supported under each section of Windows, Windows Server, Mac, and Linux. So we'll talk about managing applications for the legacy devices in the first part of this webinar. Okay. So before we start, we would like to see the challenges that are faced in a traditional software deployment method. So first of all, we'll have to ensure that the business applications are available for users to install at their own convenience. So they might be available, they will be working from home or in office. So regardless of where they are, they should be able to deploy their own applications. We might be able to set up strict mode to restrict people from installing messy software or unwanted software in their environment. So that's something we need to do. And we may have too many software deployment related help desk requests. So admin might fed up with those multiple requests getting for different types of software being used in your organization. So these are some of the common challenges that we are facing. Okay. So we will be able to sort out all those challenges with Desktop Central software deployment. So we'll see how software deployment within Desktop Central works. Okay, so you have the Desktop Central server hosted in your environment, and you have installed the Desktop Central agents in your client machines. Okay, so the clients should get the software from the Desktop Central server. For that, we use something called a repository where the software will be saved. So it could be a network share where you might already have a network share set up for your environment and the software might be there already. So you can either just map it with Desktop Central Server, or you can have a HTTP repository automatically created when you set up Desktop Central. We'll see the difference between them in the next slide, but this is how it works. So Desktop Central Server, from there, you will decide what software you want and you save it in the repository, and then you deploy it to the client machines. So they will fetch it from the respective repositories and get them installed. In case if you have computers, multiple computers in an office infrastructure, they will all be using internet bandwidth to download it from the Desktop Central server. This is in case if you have multiple remote offices in different locations. So they will be using internet bandwidth to download all the software. So to minimize the bandwidth consumption, we have something called a distribution server, which will download all the required software once over the internet, and then it uses the local intranet connection to distribute it to the client machines. So we'll be able to minimize bandwidth consumption because of the software deployment as well. So we've talked about different repositories. So you have a network share and a HTTP repository. The difference is in network share, you can manage only those computers that are within your network. So we call them LAN agents. But in HTTP repository, it could be computers, whether they're within your network or outside your network, we should be able to manage them using the HTTP repository. And you need to ensure that the software size is around 7 gigs if it is a HTTP repository. But for network share, there is no such limits. But it has its own disadvantages where the computers should have access to the network share. Only then they will be able to fetch the software from there. And you also have to set up and maintain the network share, but in HTTP repository, there is no such maintenance or setup needed. It's done by default when you set up Desktop Central. So we'll talk about deploying Microsoft Teams application using templates. So this is an example. Okay, this is to tell you how to deploy any application that we have in our templates to the devices. So what you're looking at is the console where we have multiple features offered in Desktop Central. So for this, we'll have to go to the software deployment where we already have thousands of templates added. Okay, so let me just maximize. So we have templates already added for Windows, Mac, and different flavors of Linux as well. So all you need to do is search for the application you want, and you can, once you have the application that you want listed here, you can create a package straight away from this view, and you can deploy it to your machines. So I can just click on create package, and it will automatically create a package. So you can see that it is creating the package. So once it is created, you can deploy it to any machine or group of machines in your organization. I already have a different version of Teams uh, installed. So let me see if I can open that up. I have Microsoft Teams already added here. So I can just simply click on install software as a computer or a user based on how we want to deploy them. So since you are doing it from the packages already, it's having Microsoft Teams selected there already. So for deploying a software, we normally use a system user account, which is a service account within the client machines. So we will mitigate that to perform any operations that we do from Desktop Central. So by default, it will have a sort of elevated permission to install these software. But in case if any software demands admin rights, you even have an option to add your admin credentials to the credential manager. You can choose that and you can deploy it to your machines. Okay. And if you want to schedule this software to be installed, let's say we want to do this during uh, weekends or non-business hours, you can select that. And we also have options to create policy. So maybe you are deploying it during business hours in some cases. It's based on your requirements. So you can choose what time the software are to be installed. You can notify the users before deploying the software. You can give them like a message if needed. And you can even allow them to skip the deployment if they're busy. And even if you want to reboot the machines after after the software gets installed, you can give a message to the users and do a restart or specify a time on when the restart should happen, or even allow the users to postpone the restart if they are busy with their works. So all these things are customizable for every package if you need, or you can have a single policy created and map it with any software deployment task that you do. Okay. And then you can have this targeted to the whole domain if you want, or you can have them targeted to an AD group, because we do have the option to integrate with your on-prem AD, and we can get the details of your AD groups and OUs. So when you target a software, you can easily target it to an AD group, your OUs, or within Desktop Central, you can create custom groups or dynamic custom groups with different computers and select them for this particular deployment. And you can see that we also have a retry option here. So when you deploy any software, you will be having this option to enable retry. For example, you're deploying a software to 100 computers. And if 10 were off at that time, instead of telling you that it's failed in those 10 machines, it will do a retry during its startup. So when the machine startup, it will understand that there is a new configuration available. It will fetch that and get it installed. Similarly, we have something called a refresh policy where every 90 minutes, the agents will communicate with the server and see if there are new configurations available. So if it was off the network when you deploy the software, or it wasn't able to reach it, in such cases, the next communication will get the software again and get it installed. So that's how we deploy any software directly from our templates to a group of computers in your organization. So for the next example, we will talk about deploying a commercial application, for example, Office 365, to a specific department. So we already talked about creating groups, right? So you can create multiple groups for different departments, and we call that a custom group. Okay, so you can create a static custom group or a dynamic custom group based on the needs that you have. So once you have your group created, you can add your own package here. So in templates, we cannot support some commercial applications. And what we do instead is we will have a option here where you can create your own package. Say, for example, if you have Office 365, you will have to create um, you'll have to extract the files from Microsoft's deployment tool. We do have a complete document talking about uh, what needs to be done in order to deploy Office 365 applications. We have a step-by-step instructions in the document. You can check that. But for this training purpose, I'll just tell you that we can download Office deployment tool. From there, you will be able to get the necessary configuration files, and you can also get the setup file which needs to get deployed to the machines. So it could be the um, file that we need check. Let me open and show you how this looks like, so you'll get an idea about it. So when you extract the Office deployment tool, you get the setup file and you get the configuration files. These files can be modified, or you can go to Microsoft's Office deployment tool and you can customize your own XML file based on the language, based on what applications are not supposed to be included in that installation. Maybe you want to decline the installation of Access and Excel. In such cases, you can decline that. So all those customizations can be done, and you can get an XML file out of it. Okay. So what we do here is it could be either the whole ISO file that you extracted, and you can zip them and deploy it directly from there, or you can get that click to run file like I do, where you have the setup.exe file. So you can upload the setup.exe file and the configuration file with that, which is an XML file that you've got with all the customization done on it. So once you have done that, you will just call this file along with the configuration file. So this will be the command that we need to use. So any package that you create will need a silent switch. You need to include a silent switch along with the deployment of that particular software. So any software that we deploy will be deployed silently without any user intervention on the client side. So here the config.xml can take care of it. So we are calling the setup.exe file. Along with that, we are calling the config.xml file as well. And then you can create a package straight away from here. Maybe in scenarios where you're deploying a software, you may want to do some activities prior to the software deployment. For example, you may want to see if this software is already installed in the machines. So in such cases, you can choose the software and you can choose the version and see if the version is already there. You can skip the installation in those machines. Or maybe you want to perform some activities. Maybe you have a script and you want to deploy that script, and whatever outcome that you get out of the script, then the software deployment should happen. So those kinds of activities can be done. You can do the same with registry settings, or you can uninstall an older version of the software and install a newer version, or stop or start a service and then install the software. So all these types of pre-deployment or post-deployment activities. So even after the installation, if you want to make any changes to the files like copy of file, maybe you have a license file separately, you want to copy the license file to a particular directory where the software is installed. So those kinds of activities are possible with the help of these pre and post deployment activities. So that's how you create a package for commercial applications in Desktop Central. So once you have your application created, it's again the same process where you can install any software. So here you will just choose Office 365. So and you will also have the same options to install it after a certain time. You can choose your preferred target. So for this example, since we mentioned that we need to deploy it to a department, so I can choose to deploy it to the domain and then filter them down to a group, and then I select my department here. I might have a department created for a custom group, so I can choose that particular department here, and I can deploy it to the machines. And even after the deployment, if you want to get more information about what happened, you'll be able to see all those configurations you have deployed. You will be able to see how many computers got them successfully deployed, how many got failed, if it's failed, why it failed. So all those information, you'll be able to see them under the configurations. So that's how we deploy commercial applications to uh, a specific department. So for the next example, we'll see a scenario where John is receiving a lot of help desk tickets to install various business applications. How can this be minimized? So this is a classical example of any IT admin role. So they will be getting a lot of service requests related to software installation. So we have come up with an option called self-service portal. So you can open the self-service portal and you can deploy the necessary software to a group of computers. You can choose what software are to be published to them. So these are, of course, the software that are approved for the users to install it themselves. Okay, so you can choose to publish it to their self-service portal. From there end, they can open the portal. They will see all the software that they have published, and they can install the software themselves. And in case if you are aware of Service Desk Plus, which is a ticketing tool from Manage Engine, if you have them integrated with Desktop Central, you will even have an option for the users to request for a software. And once they have a request sent, it will be forwarded to Service Desk Plus, and the Service Desk Plus technician can approve the request. Once the request is approved, it will get installed on the client's machines. So that is also possible. For this installation, we are using the system user account or the service account, which we talked about earlier. So even if the user doesn't have an administrator rights in the machines, they can still install these software on the machines. So we'll talk about the common error messages that are received during a software installation. Okay, so the first one that we're seeing here, it's clearly saying that the system cannot find the path specified or access denied. So this is mostly the case when we choose network share. So when you choose network share and deploy the software to machines, if they don't have access to the share because they are in work from home where the network share is not accessible, maybe they don't have VPN when you deployed this software, or maybe they are within the office, but they don't have enough rights to access the network share. So those kinds of scenarios, you will get this error message. In some cases, antiviruses may intervene. It might have a strict mode where it doesn't allow the software to get installed. So as soon as we copy the software file, if it detects any exe files, it might remove it. In rare case scenarios, it might be a reason as well. And you also have the second one that we're talking about is messages related to no silent switch or invalid silent switches. So this is, as you can see from the message itself, it's very clear that you have added a command to install the software, but you either have provided a wrong silent switch or there was no silent switch provided. Okay, so like I mentioned, any software, when you create a package, if it is an MSI file, you don't need a silent switch. By default, MSI files tend to run without any user intervention. So you can deploy them. You can just test them once and deploy them directly from Desktop Central. If it is something like an exe file, in such cases, You can see that I'm calling Google Talk setup.exe and I'm including /s. So the /s that we are including is the silent switch that needs to be given along with the installation command. So this is of course not the same for all the vendors. It's going to be different for each and every vendors. So what we recommend is you can just Google it from the vendors' websites. You will find the right silent switches. They might have forums and documents where they will give you the instructions to use the right silent switches for their particular software. They can use that and get them deployed to them. If you want to test it before deploying to Desktop Central, you can simply uh, have the installer file in one of the test machines and go to command prompt and use this command along with silent switch. You shouldn't get any pop-ups there. You shouldn't get your UAC prompt. You shouldn't be getting any windows there for user intervention. It should deploy silently. So you just execute it in the command prompt and go to your control panel and see if the software is there or not. So if it is there, you can very much use the same command in Desktop Central and you can deploy that as well. So that's how we ensure the software gets deployed silently with the help of silent switch, and that's the error message is all about. So we'll quickly see how Desktop Central works. I mean, we'll see the architecture of it. Okay, so we have talked about software deployment, and you might have got an idea about how it works. So on a big picture, you have Desktop Central server installed in your machines. Then the endpoints will have the Desktop Central agents installed in them. So it works as a client server model. And you'll also have the secure gateway server. This is to manage computers that are outside your network. To securely have them connect to Desktop Central server, what we do is we install the secure gateway server in a Windows machine and place it in your DMZ so that it can be hosted securely in the internet. The public FQDN of this secure gateway will be given to the agents. So the agents will reach this over the internet and secure gateway will forward it to the Desktop Central server. That's how the communication works. And for computers that are outside your network but in a different office, in such cases, they can also reach the secure gateway and their communications are also forwarded to the Desktop Central server. So your roaming users and work from home computers can be managed as well, like the same way you're managing the computers that are within your network. So if computers are in other offices, if there is a bandwidth consumption that needs to be minimized because of the patches or the software that you install, we have distribution server for that, as we discussed earlier. So this will help you to download all the required software over the internet once, and then it'll use the local intranet connection to distribute it. So we'll be able to minimize your bandwidth consumption in an office infrastructure. So that's how Desktop Central works. As I mentioned earlier, you have an option to even connect to your Active Directory and get your I mean, this is an on-prem Active Directory where you'll be able to get the details of your AD groups, OUs, and your AD reports are fetched as well. So what we saw earlier is the on-prem version of Desktop Central's architecture, but we do have a cloud offering. That's what we're seeing here. It's a SaaS-based solution. So all these pods that we're seeing here under the Desktop Central server and the secure gateway server, you don't need to set up anything. It's all there in the cloud. So as soon as you sign up and sign in, you just get it hosted up and running there. So the next part of app management in mobile devices will be taken care by my colleague, Ruben. So yeah, Ruben, over to you.
Thank you, Surya. Thank you for taking us through the software installation part for traditional endpoints. Now let me demonstrate how you could deploy the application on modern endpoints, like modern devices, like mobile phones, tablets, and other device models. So before I proceed, please confirm if you're able to hear my voice and view the presentation. So you can confirm that by commenting in the chat section. Thank you. Hello. As I mentioned, I'm going to demonstrate about how you can install and manage your business application on mobile devices. And So this is a simple workflow or the architecture, how exactly the app management works in mobile device management part. So be it every MDM instance will have their own unique app repository. So either it is a Play Store app or an enterprise app, you're going to first add them to your own app repository. And when you distribute a Play Store application, the app will be initiated or the installation will be initiated from the appropriate app store location. And when it comes to your own enterprise app, so if you have your own application and you're trying to distribute to your mobile devices, and when you do that way, the app will be downloaded from the appropriate MDM instance. So first, let me show you how you could deploy the business store or Apple App Store application to your devices. So this is how the MDM component looks within Desktop Central. And to add the required application, you can go to the Management tab, and you will have the App Repository section here. To illustrate the App Store application, first let me add an Apple App Store application to my repository. So for that, you will have the option under Management, App Repository, Add Application. And here you would have the option to choose the appropriate store location. Like say you have devices in different countries. Like if you want to deploy an application for the devices which is located in UK or Australia, you can choose the appropriate place store location here, and then you can go for the app name. Like say, let me deploy the Zoho Creator application to my devices. So I'll just go ahead and search for the app name. This will be getting listed here. And you can also verify the bundle identifier and also the version which you're trying to deploy to your devices. And moreover, when you distribute, you can also choose whether you want to retain this app if the device is removed from the MDM solution. Say a user might change its device, or if a user might leave the organization. If you want to retain the application, or if you want to remove it once a device gets deprovisioned from the product, you can have this option enabled. At the same time, since you're deploying a business store application, if you don't want to have the backup, the app backup taken on the personal iTunes account, you can also restrict it. So this way, you can add the required Apple App Store application to your repository and also customize it. Even if you want to pre-configure certain app permissions also, you have an option to create or configure an XML file and upload it here. You do have a KB article which explains about how we can create configure the XML. And then you save it to the repository. It's going to be very simple as you see. So you're just going to app repository, search for the required app name, and then you're going to load it to your app repository first. So once the app is saved, you're going to the groups and devices section, and you'll be able to select the required devices. So we recommend you to test these app deployment on 1 or 2 devices first before you go for a bulk deployment. You can also, so this is how the standalone MDM even looks like. So as I mentioned, you could go to devices first, search for the required devices you want to test with. I would like to filter based on platform first. So let me filter based on the operating system. So I want to test this on one of my Apple devices. I'll select the device name. I'll go to action. As I mentioned, I would like to test the Zoho Creator app. So search for the app name. And when you distribute the application to your devices, you would have 2 mode of installation types. So one, silently you can deploy. First, or else you can go with App Catalog. This is like a self-service portal where you distribute the required application to the users, and it's users' choice where they could go and enable the app installation based on their choice. So first, let me show you the primary installation type, which is like distributing to the App Catalog. And you can also notify the user. So when you distribute any application, you can also have them notified via email, like the instruction how to get this app deployed on the device end. So this way, I have added the application to the repository, and I'm testing it with one device first and make sure that it works fine. And then I'll go with group-based deployment. On an end device end, if you see how the application will be initiated, so the users would go to the MEMDM app they will see this list of options like app catalog, content catalog, where they can go to app catalog section to see the list of apps being distributed, and they can click on install to initiate it. And when they do so, it will prompt the users to enter their own iTunes account and password to complete the registration. So this might be an ideal step when it comes to managing BYOD devices. So when you manage personal devices for corporate management, like creating a separate workspace, so this would be a way where you distribute the application to the app catalog, and the end users can go to Manage Engine App Catalog section to initiate the app installation part. So that is it. And when you see this way, uh, distributed to app catalog would need the way where every device needs to be provisioned with an iTunes account, and user intervention is required to complete the app deployment part. But however, you do have another way where you could silently deploy the app installation. Let me show you how you can do that. And to automate the app installation, when it comes to iOS devices, we need to use the Apple Business Manager portal for silent app deployment. And for Android, we need to use the Manage Google Play services for it. And as a prerequisite, as I mentioned, you need to have an ABM or Google account in order to silently deploy the apps on the device end. And for iOS, the device needs to be supervised. You will come to know what is supervision, how you could take complete control over the Apple devices in the upcoming training schedules. We will discuss about the onboarding procedure. So supervision is the mode where you can enable through a particular way of enrollment. And you can silently deploy those applications only on supervised devices. And for Android, it just needs to be above 5.0 and later version. And as a workflow, in order to silently deploy the app, you have to integrate your Desktop Central or MDM server with appropriate business portals like Apple Business Manager or Manage Google Play service. And then from the appropriate portals, you have to approve the required application. And upon approving it, it will get added to your app repository, and then you can distribute the devices, which in turn will use these ABM or Manage Google Play accounts to silently deploy the application on the end devices. So end users will not be prompted to enter their own iTunes account or Google account. It will use the corporate ABM or Manage Google Play service account for app installation. So let me show you how you can integrate your MDM or Desktop Central server with Apple Business Manager. For that, you go to App Repository and Apple App Management. So if you're doing it for the first time, this is how we would see the screen. And Apple offers you two portals, one for business purposes, another one for education institution, where they do have a separate portal called Apple School Manager. So for now, let me choose the first one. I'm going to log into my Apple Business Manager portal. So in case if you don't have an ABM account, but still you wish to silently deploy the application on your Apple devices, be it an iPhone, iPad, or a MacBook, you do have an option to create an ABM account through this link. Sign into your ABM portal. So you do just a two-way step procedure to integrate it. So once after you log into your ABM portal, you go to the settings section, click on apps and books, where you would see the list of servers you have added, through which you can download the token and integrate. So go to settings, apps and books, and I'll be able to find the list of servers I've added, through which you can download and integrate with your ABM portals. Once that is done, in order to distribute the application, you can go to content, apps and books section and search for the required application. Let's say I want to deploy Zoho meetings to all my Apple users. I'll search for the app name, and it's always, you need to make sure this application has the check mark as device assignable. So only then you'll be able to silently deploy the application to the devices. And you can choose to which server you're trying to approve the app. So remember the workflow: first the integration, then approving the apps, and approval is you can just go and select the app name and choose to whichever server you want to distribute this application to. And even though it is a free application, still Apple demands you to enter the quantity for how many devices you're going to procure or distribute. So this might help us to track the distribution details or data even. search for the app name, choose the location, and then enter the quantity. So this way you get to sync the app to your repository. And once the app has been added to your app repository section, go to groups and devices. As I mentioned before, select one or two device, test the app deployment, how it functions, and then you go for group-based deployment. And now when you do it this way, like say I want to deploy the Zoho meetings to my sales and marketing department. I'll have these two groups enabled, and I'll go to distribute app, search for the required application. And now I'll choose the silent installation as the installation type. So before I went with app catalog, the user have to go and initiate the deployment. Now, since I've added the Zoho meetings through Apple Business Manager, I'll go with the second option and choose yes, which in turn will silently deploy the apps on the device end. So the end users will not be prompted. They can the app will straight away start to install on the device end. So this is how you can add the required application either for an Apple, iPhone, iPad, or even for the MacBooks. So this will be the workflow. And as a recommendation, Apple suggests you to have the devices connected to a Wi-Fi if the app size exceeds 200 MB, because sometimes the users will report that they have distributed the apps, but still it has not been installed on the user end. Because if the app size exceeds 200 MB, only if a device is connected to the Wi-Fi, the app installation will get initiated. So this is just a small heads up I wanted to give you. And second, now let's see how you could silently deploy the application for Android devices. And for that, you have to use the Manage Google Play service. And again, in order to integrate your Manage Google Play service with your Desktop Central MDM, you go to the app repository section, go to Manage Google Play. And here you will have, again, two options. Either using your G Suite account, you can integrate your Desktop Central server with Manage Google Play service. If not, you could go without G Suite. Even if you have a corporate Gmail account, you can also use that for integration. Let me choose the second option and use my Gmail ID to integrate. Click on Configure Now. Get started. You'll have to mention your business name. And you'll have to mention the data protection officer details here. So this has been made mandatory once after the GDPR law has been passed, because based on the security compliances, so these representatives in your organization will be contacted for it. It's always recommended to mention these officer details before you integrate. You'll have to follow the on-screen instruction in order to complete the registration process. So that's it. I've integrated my corporate Gmail account with the Desktop Central MDM. So once this is done, when it comes to Apple, as you know, as we saw, we have to go to a separate portal for adding the required application. But when it comes to the Android devices, you would have the UI directly displayed within the portal itself. So once that is done, you could go to the app repository section and you will be able to see the list of apps being synced. So as I stated, in order to add the required application for Android devices, you just need to click on this. So automatically, the Play Store app UI would get listed here. We have the item integration already enabled. All you need is to search for the required app and approve it to your repository. So I'm trying to deploy Zoho CRM applications to all my users. So I'm searching for this app name. And I'll approve this, which in turn will be added to the repository. And so once you click on sync, whatever apps you approve, you can also add multiple applications in one single shot. And now in order to distribute, again, you'll have to go to groups and devices to do it. But before that, I would like to show an additional option even. So as I've added the Zoho CRM application to my repository now, I can also pre-configure certain app permissions. Like say, I want the camera to be always allowed for this application. I want to have the microphone allowed, location services also, and storage to be denied or phone to be denied and while using these applications. Like this, you can pre-configure the required app permissions for the very same app, like the Play Store app which you have added to your repository and save it. So once the app permissions or details are saved, you can go to groups and devices and distribute to the device or either a group. So and like we did before, it's better to choose a silent installation when you do so. And on the user end, silently these apps will start to install, and end user doesn't have to do any actions apart from it. It will start to install right away. And moreover, when the user click on the app permission, app details, these options will be pre-configured. So the users will not have an option to uh, turn it off or disable this. And moreover, as I mentioned, if it's a BYOD device, this is how you will have a separate workspace, and whatever app you distribute through our portal will get listed or installed within this workspace unknown. And by default, the app details or files cannot be shared across the work app to any of these personal applications. So this is how you can add the required application um, to your app repository and then go to groups or devices to distribute. And as I mentioned, in order to silently deploy the application, you'll have to integrate with Apple App Management and manage Google Play services. I've shown you how about the app installation part, and let me also demonstrate how we could control the app updates. Because as you know, certain app updates is an updated version might be the patch for an existing issues. If not, sometimes you also want to have a particular version of app to be installed on across all your devices, which you might not also want to update them. How we can achieve those settings through our solution. So by default, you will have the automate app update section enabled. So we don't want the administrators to periodically check for the latest version and then distribute again to your devices. So when you have this option enabled, our client will monitor which is the latest version available in the Play stores, and the apps whichever you have added, if it seems to be in lesser version, during the subsequent contact time, all your apps will be automatically updated through our MDM profile, our MDM agent installed on the devices. And if you don't want to update them automatically, where you want to take how to have a control on them, then you can disable this option. And the only way to update them is to go to app repository, and you would see something like this, where it states out of the 167 apps you've added, only 17 apps require an update. You can click on this count. That will list only these 17 applications again. And so whichever app you wish to upgrade or update, you can click on the app name and choose update all. So this is also a way where you can disable the automatic update feature and have control on the app updates. So now let me show you how we could manage your enterprise application. So far, I've shown you how you can add an Apple App Store or a Google Play Store application and silently deploy it to your devices. Now let me show you how you could add your own corporate apps and distribute them to your devices. And you might wonder whether you need to have an ABM or managed Google Play account for deploying it. Not required to deploy your own application. And is it possible to test this app before deployment? Yes, and also you can add multiple versions of the app before you deploy it even. So let me show you how we could do that. And as a prerequisite, in order to deploy your own application to your devices, for iOS, it has to be supervised. And for Android, it has to be provisioned as a device owner. If not, it has to be a Samsung device. So you will get to know what is supervision and how to make a device enrolled as device owner in the upcoming training schedules. So in order to add your own application, you go to app repository. It's going to be again simple, where you'll have to click on app repository, choose either Apple Enterprise app or Android Enterprise app. If you have your own APK files and you're trying to find a way to distribute your devices, you'll have to choose the Android Enterprise app option, search for the file, and you can load the APK file to your repository. And when you add the required APK files to a repository, it will automatically validate the APK details, like the app permissions and the app version details. Everything will be pre-selected. And if you would like to deploy this app to only smartphones, or even if you want to deploy this to Android TVs, if when a developer makes the APK compatible with Android TVs, even you would have the additional device types even supported. But now, let's say I want to deploy this APK to only smartphones. I'll just go and add them to the repository. So once the app is added, I'll just go and click on distribute, and I'll choose the required devices, groups, and test them. So first, let's say I want to test it with my test group, and then I would like to select all the groups and then distribute this APK file. And you might wonder, then after, like say, now I have distributed my own our own corporate applications to all my devices. Like say after a month, you would like to add certain other features to your own application, or you want to fix certain issues which was found in the version 1. How you can do that? Same way, you can go to app repository. Under actions, you will have upload new version, and you can search for the next APK file. So let's say I want to add a 2.0 now. First, I've deployed the APK 1.0. Now I'm going to deploy 2.0 now. And you can also give a name, like say this version 2.0, I would like to make it as beta. First, I want to test how this version 2.0 works on my devices, and then I want to approve it. So now you will have two options. Either you want to deploy this production and applications to all your devices, or the beta version. And when you choose the beta version, again, you can go with testing it for certain devices alone. And during this testing, if you come across certain issues, like say this version 2.0 seems to be corrupted and it's causing the device to restart whenever they open the applications or no, then you can go ahead and add another version even. Again, go to app repository. And you can click on upload new version and search for the other version. Either like say 2.0 seems to be corrupted, so I would like to add 2.1 or 3.0. I'll choose the appropriate APK file and then make it as in beta. And now I'm going to test the second beta to all my devices. So this is how you'll be able to add the multiple versions of the very same application and be able to approve it. And moreover, when you approve the required app versions, you can also make sure, so when you click on approve, you would get an option whether to install this app update, like the version 3.0 on all your devices, or you want to distribute the app catalog. Let the users update the app based on their own choice. You can also choose the appropriate mode you want and then update it. So this is how you can add your own application and test the required app versions you have and then be able to approve it. So this is how you'll be able to add your own enterprise application and then deploy it remotely to your devices. So now I've shown you how we can add the Apple App Store application and the Google Play Store application on also your own enterprise app. Now, let me show you how we can prevent users from installing applications on their devices. Let's say if you come across any malware softwares or app installed on the device, you go to inventory app section, where you get to see the list of app being distributed or installed on your devices. If you want to prevent any application, you can just select the app name and block them here. And when you block also, you'll be able to choose whether you want to block it for all your devices or only to selected devices, and also make sure you have this option enabled. So when you block any application and have this option enabled, it will be uninstalled immediately. And also you can choose whether you want to notify and then uninstall, or just send a notification alert to the user that these applications are restricted to use. So this is a way where you could find the list of apps, install, and you can prevent them. And if you want to prevent the installation of the application itself, apart from whatever you distribute or whatever the admin distributes, you can go to the profile management section for it. Click on create profile. You can choose it either iOS or Android, where you will have a section called restriction. And the restriction, you will have a separate tab for applications where you could go ahead and restrict this option. Users can install unapproved apps. If you restrict this option, users will not be able to go to Play Store or Apple App Store and be able to install applications of their own choice. So you can prevent this way by uh, distributing this restriction profile to all your devices. So I'll just save this profile and distribute. So this will make sure the users will not be able to install the apps of their own choice. The same can be done for Android devices too. Go to the MDM tab. You go to profiles, and you can also create a separate profile like how we created for iOS, and also you can also create it for Android and go with the same restriction option. So this way you'll be able to prevent the users from installing malicious apps on the devices. And even if it is installed, you can also still go ahead and block them using the inventory app section. Sometimes the users might also use the same applications through websites, because you can also see a list of apps being available in SaaS-based too. So if you want to prevent even the web access of these applications, there is still a way through profiles. You can go to profiles, create a profile for either Android or iOS, and you will have this filter called web content filtering, where you can add the required websites to be blocked. So you can also add multiple websites to this list, and you can block them on the device end. Moreover, whenever you move on to different payloads here, like say you want to configure the app restriction and the web content filter, everything in a single profile, it's always recommended to save and then you go to the next payload. Because if, like say, you go to restriction, you have these options restricted, even network, I want to make sure the device is always connected to Wi-Fi and all. And if you go to the next tab, whatever settings you have enabled or disabled would go off again. So the users would you'll have to go and redo it again. So that's the reason. If you move to any other payload, it's always recommended to save and then move on to the next. So I've shown you how you could deploy apps and also control the app installation and app updates. How you can also allow only certain specific apps to be allowed on the devices. You might also have some point of sale devices, and you want to make sure only certain apps to be listed or to be allowed for the users to use. How we could do that using the mobile device management part. For that, again, you go to profiles. You have a profile name called Kiosk. We call this as an app lock mode even. If you want to lock your devices with either a single app or multi-app, you can choose the required applications like this. And only those applications will be visible for the user end. The users cannot or use any other application apart from this list. They can choose the required application. And if you want to give some granular permission, like say, let them enable or disable the Wi-Fi based on the choice. And but I want to prevent the users accessing to the back button or power button as restricted. The users cannot turn off the device or hit the back button. So likewise, you can choose the required permissions along with locking them with these app lists alone. And the best part is you can also customize the screen layout. You can choose what should be the app size or how you want to place this application. You want to create a folder and then place all the application inside the list. So likewise, you can also customize the screen layout when you go with kiosk mode even. On the device end, if it's a single app, whatever app you lock with, it will automatically launch. When the user unlocks the phone, if it's a single app, automatically the app will be launched. Like for this example, as you see in the first image, it could be a delivery guy's devices where they want to have access only to the Google Map. So whenever the user unlocks the device, they get access only to this application. And here on the second image, it's going to be a multi-app kiosk mode. Only these applications will be available for the users to use. So now I've shown you about the app management part. I would also like to touch base the automatic OS update feature, because the main reason to have an automatic app update or the OS update or control OS update is because if the OS is not updated on the devices, it might also miss out certain security patches, and the older OS gets to slow with time and it will not be functional. Moreover, whatever app you develop, if you're using your own in-house application, the app developer might develop that application based on the latest operating system. And if your devices are outdated, it might not work as expected. That's the reason you will have to have control on the OS update of your devices too. And we have it's better to have a one-time setup, and you can classify whether you want to automatically update the OS on certain devices first, test it, and then approve it for other set of devices like this. And moreover, I'll show you how we could do that. So go to the Management tab, and you have the Automate OS Update section here, where you can create a policy for the required devices. Like say, I want to create a policy called immediate deployment for my test devices. As soon as Google or Apple releases an update, I want to immediately upgrade to my test devices and make sure the OS runs fine. Then after, I'll create another group for protection or policy for another group for devices where I want to delay the update. Say I'm going to delay it for another 7 days, and I want to make sure the network bandwidths are not used high when it comes to updating the operating system too. So I would like to go with non-office hours. I'll try to do from evening 6 o'clock till midnight, or based on the required time convenient. You can also mention the time frame here. And additionally, if you would like to notify the users about the OS update, you can have this option enabled, and also allow the users to skip it. Like say, whenever Android or Google releases an update, first I want to delay it for 7 days. Then after, I would like to give another additional 7 days for the users to skip. Then it will be forcefully updated on the devices. So this way, you can create an OS update policy and choose the required devices to distribute. So this is how you could add the required application to your app repository and distribute, and have a control on the app updates, and also control the required application install. Or even if you want to lock your devices with kiosk mode, you have those options available under profile. And finally, even if you would like to have a streamlined workflow for having your devices always up to date, you can also have this option configured. So now we've come to the end of the training, where we'll have a live Q&A session, and you can post your queries on both traditional endpoints and also on modern endpoints with respect to app management part.
All right. Thank you very much, Ruben, and thank you very much, Surya. That was a wonderful presentation. Hello, folks. This is Santosh, one of the technical evangelists with the Manage Engine. So we would try to answer as much as question as possible. Ruben, are we ready?
Yes, Santosh.
Perfect. I hope Surya is also there. So, folks, please start posting your questions. We do have questions already. We'll try to go over through them, and also the questions that are coming up. All right. So, how to run in elevated mode issues with UAT? I think this is more related to the software deployment. I believe the question is related to how to run this application in an administrative mode. I think the answer would be, when you deploy an application, probably this specific questions may require some more information. But generally, when we deploy applications from Desktop Central, it runs as a system user. But however, as Ruben is going to show you, you can choose as which user you want to run. You can select the credentials from the list as shown there. So you can run as a specific user if you want to run the package. That's also possible. All right. Thank you, Ruben.
Thank you.
So if Windows crashed, I think if Windows is crashed, can we install Windows with the user data backup through remote? Well, I think this is more related to the OS deployment side. I would probably tell you to register for the OS deployment session that's going to be along with, I think, on the remote management. You could visit the link for more information. But however, just to answer the query, we do have standalone deployment over the internet as well. So if you are talking about deploying it in the home through a cloud server, that's not available at the moment. But you can do standalone deployment. You can ship a USB with the image as well as bootable media to make it back up. or if the machine is inside the network, then you can boot the machine using network, and you can image those machines. But that's more of an OS deployment. I would suggest you to go for the OS deployment webinar for more information. Right? You can visit the same link. Ruben, do you have that link open? EMS trainings.
Yeah, do it.
So I think we could post it on chat for everybody. EMS-free training. So I'm going to copy that, post it on chat so that everybody will be able to see that. Perfect. I'm going to move on to the next one. When you deploy a third-party app, does it require local admin permissions on the target? No, the agent that's installed in every machine will take care of the installations, right? Are there any issues managing Windows 11? We haven't seen anything so far. That's more of a generic questions. Moving down. With silent installations, does the user need admin privileges to install? Again, it's the same thing. When you deploy through Desktop Central, you don't have to worry about the admin credentials. Desktop Central agent will take care of it. But if you would like to run it as a specific user, you could do that as well. Can distribution servers download patches from vendor side, not from central server, avoiding internet bandwidth consumption? Ruben or Surya, would you like to take that question?
The answer is no. Because when it comes to the patch downloads, I hope the distribution server can download the patches only from the central server. If you have the direct communication agents, the computers can directly download from the appropriate vendor site and do it. But when it comes to distribution server to vendor site, I don't think so.
Okay, perfect. And just adding to that, I mean, since it's about distribution servers, if at all you have roaming agents that are connecting directly to the server, so we have recently introduced an option that says direct download. So instead of downloading it directly from the server, it could download it from the internet itself. So if for the more information, let me give you a link on this.
And Santosh, to add that, we do support this in the cloud version. I mean, the SaaS-based solution that we offer.
Of course.
In distribution servers will download the patches and software directly from the vendors, and it will distribute it to the client machines.
Yeah,
It's
perfect.
just not available in the on-prem yet.
Just to add that up, Surya, we do have an alternative method. I'm going to post it on for everybody's understanding. So I posted a link. Folks, you can look at that link to understand how to enable this patch download using the internet, and you should have more information on that. Perfect. Let me go to the other questions. Okay, recording of the session. Yes, you will get the recording of the session over the email. I see multiple questions related to that, so just wanted to answer it. You will get the recording of the session over the email. So is there a way to secure the workspace where the apps are deployed with a password? Ruben, would you like to go for that?
Secure the yes. Can you please repeat the question once again, sir?
Is there a way to secure the workspace where the apps are deployed with a password?
That's right. Yes. If you would like to secure with the passcode for the workspace only for Samsung Knox, you should be able to do that. Apart from that, for normal Android devices, the workspace cannot be locked with a certain passcode alone. So only for Android, which is Samsung Knox, you should be able to do that.
Perfect. Thank you. And there's another question that says, is it possible to restrict the users from installing apps on computers? We have an add-on called Application Control. that would help you to do it. Ruben, would you like to just show them the app control on? So we have a product called Application Control Plus, and it's also available inside the suite of Desktop Central called App Control. It will help you to whitelist, blacklist applications. So if you have whitelisted application, it will not allow the users to install any other apps apart from the whitelisted ones. So that's the tool you can use. This is the one, App Control. Is there a way to roll back patch or applications post the target unwanted collection of devices? So this is more of a, are you talking about rolling back completely after the deployment is complete, or just when you push it out to the devices and you want to stop it? If you have pushed it out and if the agent has started the download process, or if an agent has taken the task already, then there is no way of stopping it. But once the accidentally pushed, yeah. So if the agent has taken it already, then you don't have any option to stop it. If the patch supports rollback, probably you can roll it back. But until the agent had taken the task, you can suspend the task, right? So if you have deployed something and the agent is waiting to get the task, you can suspend it, you can cancel it. But if the agent has taken the task, then you do not have much of a ground there. I think with that, we have come to the end of the session as well, with time not in our favor. So thank you everyone for patiently listening to the session. And please do rate us on a scale of 5, where 5 being the best. This will help us to run our webinars better. And going for the next schedule, it's on asset management for legacy and modern devices, which is on February 16th. Please make sure to register for the upcoming trainings. So to spread a word, if you like the training, you can find us in one of the social platforms as well, right? Thank you very much for patiently listening. And if you'd like to have a personalized demo for any of our products, please feel free to drop it on the chat, or you could visit the URL that's shown on the screen as well. We will assign a technician for a one-on-one session to clarify all your doubts. With that, we say thank you, and you guys have a wonderful, wonderful week ahead. Bye-bye.